Hey folks, Vince the Evil DM, another episode of RailGuns and Dragons. Again, we're back. Another daily episode. Getting through the Heroes Unlimited book, Basic Edition, Basic Revised, excuse me. I do have the Basic Edition of the game. It is a slightly different cover. It doesn't say revised on it. The typeset is a lot different. I will have to break it out of my shelf. It is in a plastic baggie because it's in good condition. I don't want to ruin that because it's one of the original ones. I have it alongside my Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles book. It's the original. And I believe, I can't find it, but I know I have the original fantasy one with the black cover with the red. It's the original edition as well. Still looking for those original books. So we'll see what happens. Anyway, thank you for the feedback. Thank you for all those, give a thumbs up and like the video and have shared it. I appreciate that. So we're going to go head along. That doesn't make any sense. Move along and go with our next thing. Today, as you probably saw from the description, we're going to be talking about robotics. Ba-boom, robotics. So we flip to page 136 for this one, and this class kind of takes a long time to build because it's very picky and choosy because you have a budget to work with. It kind of reminds me of the BioE system for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, where you have all these points and you can do whatever you want and customize them and play around. I mean, yeah, it's not the same thing exactly, but it's the same concept. You have money and you can just do whatever you want with it. Of course, you got to roll for it, but when I did this with one of my players, it took roughly 2.5 hours to make a character with him. And after we were done with that, he still really wasn't done because he wanted to go back and pick a few more things because he still had money. Because with this class, you have a certain budget, use it or lose it, is basically what they tell you. So whatever budget you roll, make sure you use it. Buy extra parts if you have to, buy things that you might think you might need in the future, because these robots are super expensive regardless of what type you build. And chances are they're not just going to be like, oh, you broke your arm? No problem. Here's another arm. No, they're going to be like, what? And start screaming at you. Just like that. Probably in a better tone, but anyway, let's get to the skinny of things here. So first thing you want to do is you want to determine a budget. Now, roll for the budget, don't pick, because who the hell's going to pick 7.5 million versus 12? Not me. I'm going to pick 12. Obviously, you're going to pick 12. Maybe compromise and pick 9 or something. I don't know. Roll, you get your budget. Next, you have to decide what type of robot you're building before heading to step 2. And there's 4 types. Type 1 is just a mechanical body that you can control, kind of like a Gundam suit or, something like that. And then type 2 is like an actual robot itself with like an AI system in it. And then type 3 is like an exoskeleton suit, kind of like an Iron Man suit, or maybe during this time frame when this was built, some of the references were the exoskeleton suit that was used in Aliens for an example. And then finally, type 4 is just an android. Now, type 1 and 3 obviously is controlled by an operator, so you don't need an AI system. Type 2 and 4 have to have an AI control to direct and motivate the machine. So, when you're building this character out, you have to determine, are you going to be a human controlling something, inside or out, or are you going to be a pure machine with a brain? Because that's how you're looking at this character right now. Most folks seem, in my experience, gravitate towards types 1 and 3, being a mechanical body that you can control, like a giant robot or something, or the exoskeleton suit trying to build or reproduce Iron Man, because who doesn't want to be Iron Man? That's kind of cool. Something like that. Or War Machine, for example. Who the hell would not want to be that? Anyway, so let's go on with that for now. And basically, you want to look here and start looking over the type of mechanical bodies and which one you want to be, the type 1, type 2, or type 3, and type 4. Now, if you're not picking an android or you're not picking a robot, you're going to be skipping all this type of thing. On step 3 and step 4, you're going to head to directly constructing your robot. So that's the fun part. After you get your budget, you're going to be building, say, I don't know, a robot or something, or an exoskeleton. So you're going to want to piece together by flipping over to here. Robot construction, here's step 4 for robots. The power supplies, the legs and locomotion, arms and hands, optical sensors and things like that, and optics, weapons that you can pick. And then there's one for giant or vehicle style robots and their weapons. And then it has, you could build it up, how much armor you want on it, what type of things you want in it. Obviously, each individual thing that you pick, like an arm or a wrist or a hand replacement, has certain slots that you can put things into. So if there are a bunch of things that you can add to a hand, and it'll tell you how many things you can add to it, you can't go over that unless you're buying it for spare parts, obviously, in the future, because when it gets damaged, you need to replace it. Or you're buying things like supplies for it. For example, maybe ammo, or you're buying a special liquid for it because it does some special ability. So you have to go through this and build out your robot pretty much, or your skeleton, or whatever you're going to do. And then we're going to head over to the skill stuff. So let me get back to that page for you. Okay, so back to when I spoke about artificial intelligence and androids and things like that and robots, you would come to step 5 if you were picking an artificial intelligence such as an android or a robot, because you basically have to program your robot now. You are the robot. You are controlling this robot, so you need to know exactly what this robot or android can do and what it looks like. So you have skill programs that you can choose from. You only get one skill program to choose from here. And then you can also, you don't have to, but there's an optional personality programming to help it, and it's pure role play. You don't have to do it. It's optional. It just kind of gives you an idea of how your robot would act or your android would act. Again, it's something you can absolutely skip and not care about. But I would think as a player myself, I would probably pick this because it might be fun to, see what I would get. Gung-ho, friendly, dynamic, cheerful, quick to act, be that type of character. What can I do with that? I could, be The Rock. I don't know. Next, we do background data after we do that. Now, I forgot to mention that this artificial intelligence part right here is only for the robot or the android. Now, this class is kind of confusing the way it runs around, because it has you jumping from left to right to left, depending on what you're building. So maybe I should just stick with one thing here. So we'll go back to our example. We're back to step 4. We're constructing our robot. We're not doing an android. We're doing, let's say, an exoskeleton like Iron Man. We go through the pages and we build it up as best as we can. Now what we have to do, because the skeleton itself, the exoskeleton itself, is just that, a skeleton. Now we need to know what the pilot can do. So for a robot that you're controlling, like a Gundam robot or whatever, or a Voltron robot, whatever you want to call it, or an exoskeleton like Iron Man, it needs a pilot of some sorts. So that pilot is human, so we need to know what that pilot does. So we skip this step 5 completely because we're not building an artificial intelligence at all. We go to the background data because we need to know exactly who helped us build this. Obviously, you're not building it yourself. You are part of some program, private-wise. It could be the private industry, could be your industry. Maybe you're Stark. Who knows? Work with the GM on that. But there's secret organizations, military, whatever. And then you have to determine the superiority of the robot system itself. How is it? Is it a prototype? Does it have, is it abandoned? Things like that. Maybe you have the only one and is irreplaceable. Then you have to figure out your status with this organization. Generally, I tend to let the player figure that one out themselves and not roll. Because, I don't know, I don't want to burden someone down with something on one of these, because these are very detailed as far as what they can do. Usually a lot of players will pick run away, but they're let go or something just so they can be on their own. I've had some players pick friendly, good relationship just so they can go back and get things repaired or looked upon. They have a contact for that. I leave that part up to the player. And now we go to step 7 because we're doing the exoskeleton again, or we're doing the giant robot. We have to figure out what his skills are. So we kind of do that like normal. We create the character just like normal, rolling them up just like normal with all the stats and everything like that. Their attacks per melee, depending if they want hand to hand. Since you're in an exoskeleton suit, you have to remember that a lot of things will be different when you're outside of it. So you're going to essentially have 2 character sheets here. Well, no, I shouldn't say 2 character sheets. You're going to have a split character sheet. You're going to have physical stats for your character and physical stats for the skeleton itself. Obviously, intellect and mental stats, things like that, will remain the same because the robot doesn't have its own brain. It's just being controlled by you. It's just a dummy suit, pretty much. So when you're inside the suit, you're going to have a slash probably down your stats. That's how we did it. We just put a slash right through it, and we'd have like character, suit. Just to determine the 2 of them. You want to distinguish the 2 of them because when you're outside of that suit, you're not going to have the same thing. But when you're in the suit, you will have different attributes, so to speak, because you're building this robot up and it's giving you bonuses. Your hand-to-hand combat will work the same regardless in or out as far as how many attacks per melee you get. You get 2 to start regardless in or out of the robot, and the rest are gained by doing hand-to-hand combat like normal and anything else. The weapons and armor are based upon whatever you build. Your SDC starts at 20, and if you're doing a robot or an exoskeleton, you have the chance of improving that through physical skills. And if you're just doing an android, then we have to start all over looking through this again, because then you go back, or if you're an android or just a flat-out robot with intelligence here, you have to go back to selecting an intelligence. And each one of those standard intelligence, advanced artificial intelligence, and transferred intellect consciousness, which is kind of cool if I'm thinking about it. You just transfer your mind right into this robot, right? Only things dreams are made of. That's never going to happen, or will it happen? Who knows? And it goes over each one and what the limitations are and what is needed and the cost for each one of them as well. So once you determine that, then you have to go and select what type of body it's going to be, and then you go and construct your android based on that. And then you would come to step 5 and pick your artificial intelligence, which we kind of glanced upon, but I had to walk it back because it was kind of confusing how I did it, and my bad. But then you would go through your skill program and pick out your skills, because these are what you have. Remember, you're no longer a human controlling something. You are the actual thing now. So this is what you get. Your skills are frozen at whatever skill level you got, because look, most of them are at 90%, 88%, 92%. So that's very high to start off with all these skills. And they don't increase, they're locked. But artificial intelligence can learn 3 new secondary skills every 3 levels of experience. So it's not like you're at a loss there. You still get more health. You still get your more skills as you level up. So it's not like you're a lost cause. I mean, I know a lot of players out there like base everything on what new do I get when I level up. And while I understand the mentality of power gamers and min-maxers and things like that, I don't understand the fact of people will not play certain classes because it doesn't look attractive on, I guess, the increasing end, so to speak. A lot of people just think of it as pure roleplay, and that's boring. They just want to be powerful, 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 powerful. And that doesn't work in a lot of my games. That's not how I do things. I will always do story before mechanics. So combat, I try to do as little as possible, because combat is such a drag and so annoying most of the time, especially if you have a large group. I mean, combat is needed in every game, obviously, because it's a role-playing game. You need to have that factor. But I would rather have shorter combats than these long, drawn-out battles that when you sit there for 2 hours, like in certain other games that you, like D&D 4th edition, when you sat there for 3 hours for one combat and you were just like yawn. So yeah, anyway, that is basically robotics. It's a lot of fun to build in this. Uh, it's a lot of fun to play depending on what you pick as well. You definitely could be an excellent hero. You can definitely be Iron Man if you choose correctly. That's what my character in my character, one of the players in my group was gunning for, was kind of like a war machine, Iron Man type thing, because I understand it's an exoskeleton suit. We decided, and I'm the GM, so I can do whatever the heck I want to do in my campaign. I decided to allow him, because he wanted to do that. He had an idea in his head, and I wanted him to be happy that it looked the way he described it. So, again, your game, your world, your rules. You play how you want. No one from Palladium's coming to your house saying, you know. Anyway, so I'm going to head out. We have one more class to go in this, I believe. And then we'll be done with Heroes Unlimited. I'm not sure what I'm going to be doing next, but I'll have to look at it over the weekend. We got a long weekend coming up for 4th of July. I'll probably be looking over books. Then I have a game I have to run. Not Palladium, unfortunately. That's starting up soon, though. You can head over to rollhighordie.com and you can listen to our Palladium Megaverse podcast, which Palladium itself has been tweeting out and sharing on Instagram because they found it and they like it themselves. They actually asked me if they can send it out, and they said it was excellent. First season was Dead Rain. Second season was Heroes Unlimited. Third season, I think we're doing Palladium Fantasy. So check it out. With that said, I'm going to say keep it original, keep it old school, and good night, everybody.